My name is Ibrahim Traoré. I'm the president of Burkina Faso. And 3 months ago I said something to black Americans that I thought was obvious. But the reaction showed me it wasn't obvious at all. It was something they'd been waiting their entire lives to hear. I said 5 words that made a 43-year-old man cry in a grocery store parking lot. 5 words that made a 29-year-old woman pull over on the highway because she couldn't see through her tears. 5 words that a 67-year-old grandmother played on repeat 47 times in one night. The 5 words were, "You were stolen, not lost." That's it. 5 words. But those 5 words hit black Americans differently than anything they'd heard before. And today I'm going to tell you exactly why. Not from a motivational speaker, not from a civil rights leader, not from an American politician, from an African, from someone who looks like them but wasn't shaped by America, from someone who sees them not as African Americans but as Africans who happen to live in America. And that difference, that tiny shift in perspective hit them so hard that thousands of people told me, nobody has ever said it like that before. Today I'm going to break down exactly why my words hit black Americans differently. Not because I'm special, but because I'm saying things from a position that carries weight American voices can never carry. Stay with me for the next 30 minutes, because by the end you'll understand why a simple sentence from an African president can change how black Americans see themselves in ways that decades of American speeches never could. The sentence that broke people. Let me start with the reaction that made me understand. I'd said something powerful. A woman named Jennifer Davis, 43 years old, sent me a voice message at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday night. Her voice was shaking, she was crying. And this is what she said. "President Traoré, I need to tell you what happened today. I was in the grocery store parking lot, sitting in my car, listening to your message on my phone. When you said you were stolen, not lost, I started crying so hard I couldn't drive. A white woman knocked on my window and asked if I was okay. I rolled down my window and I said something I've never said before in my life. I just found out I wasn't lost. I was stolen." She looked at me like I was crazy, but I didn't care. Because for the first time in my 43 years, I understood something I'd felt my whole life but couldn't name. I've spent my entire life feeling like something was missing, like I was trying to find a home I'd lost, like I was incomplete and didn't know why. Every black American feels this. We grow up feeling disconnected from our history, from our names, from our languages, from our land. And America tells us it's because we lost those things, that slavery severed the connection, and we just have to accept that loss. But you said something different. You said we were stolen, not that we lost something. That something was taken from us. And that one word changed everything. Because if I lost something, that's on me. But if something was stolen from me, that's on the thief. And I can get stolen things back. That voice message was 11 minutes long. She cried through most of it. And when I listened to it, I realized I'd said something that touched a wound I didn't even know existed. Because I'm African. I've never felt lost. I've never questioned where I belong. So when I looked at black Americans, it was obvious to me. You're not lost people trying to find yourselves. You're stolen people who've been away from home. But nobody had ever said it to them like that before. Why it hit different? You're not the victim of your story. Here's the first reason my words hit black Americans differently. For 400 years, every narrative about slavery positioned black Americans as victims of loss. You lost your freedom. You lost your culture. You lost your languages. You lost your connection to Africa. And that loss narrative puts the burden on you. Lost things are your responsibility to find. Lost connections are your fault for not maintaining. Lost identities are your problem to reconstruct. But I didn't say you lost anything. I said something was stolen from you, and that completely changes the story. When something is stolen, you're not the one who lost it. You're the one it was taken from. The burden isn't on you to find it. The burden is on the thief to return it. Let me read you what Marcus Johnson, 34, wrote to me. "I grew up being told that slavery made black people lose our culture, as if our ancestors were careless and misplaced 5,000 years of civilization, as if we forgot our languages and traditions through neglect. But you said we were stolen. And suddenly I realized, my ancestors didn't lose their languages. White people forbade them from speaking those languages and beat them when they tried. My ancestors didn't lose their religions. White people forced Christianity on them and called their spiritual practices demonic. My ancestors didn't lose their connection to Africa. White people literally kidnapped them and made it illegal to return. Nothing was lost. Everything was stolen. And realizing that changed how I see myself. I'm not the descendant of people who lost something. I'm the descendant of people who had everything taken from them and still survived. That's not a story of loss. That's a story of theft and survival. And that story makes me angry in a way that feels like power instead of pain. See what happened there? The same history, the same facts, but a different word, stolen instead of lost. completely changed how he understood his identity. And that's why my words hit differently, because I'm African. And from my perspective, it's obvious. You didn't lose anything. We both know what happened. Theft, kidnapping, forced removal. But nobody in America was saying it that clearly, because saying it that clearly puts blame where it belongs. And that makes certain people very uncomfortable. Why it hit different? I'm not asking you to fit in. Here's the second reason my words hit Black Americans differently. Every message you've heard in America from every president, every politician, every civil rights leader has been about inclusion, about fitting in, about proving you deserve to be treated equally, about being accepted into American society. Even the most powerful Black American voices are ultimately asking white America to include you, to see you, to treat you fairly. But I'm not American, so I'm not asking America to include you in anything. I'm telling you that you're already included in Africa. You don't need to prove you belong. You don't need to earn acceptance. You don't need to be good enough, smart enough, non-threatening enough. You just belong, because you're African. Let me show you why this hit different. Patricia Williams, 52, wrote me this. Every Black leader in America tells us to overcome, to rise above, to be twice as good. Even our most powerful voices are essentially saying, work harder to deserve what white people get automatically. But you didn't tell me to be better. You didn't tell me to prove anything. You just said you're African, you belong in Africa. Come home. And something in me broke, or healed. I'm still not sure which. Because I've spent 52 years trying to earn belonging in America. 52 years proving I'm smart enough, educated enough, articulate enough, non-threatening enough. And you just gave me belonging without conditions, without requirements, without having to earn it. You're not asking me to fit into your country. You're telling me I already fit, because I'm African, and Africa is mine. That's why your words hit different, because you're not asking me to be included. You're reminding me I was never excluded. I was taken away, but I was never unwelcome to return. This is why it matters that I'm African, not American. American leaders, even Black American leaders, are negotiating for your inclusion in America. They're asking America to accept you. But I'm not negotiating with America. I'm not asking anyone to accept you. I'm telling you that you're already accepted in the place your ancestors came from. And nobody needs to give you permission for that. That's not something an American president can ever say to you. But an African president can. And that's why it hits different. Why it hit different. I see you as African, period. Here's the third reason my words hit Black Americans differently. America sees you as African American, hyphenated, split, partially one thing, partially another. Your identity is presented as a compromise. You're sort of African, sort of American, fully neither. But I don't see you that way, because I'm African. When I look at you, I don't see African American. I see African who was forcibly relocated, but never stopped being African. Your skin is African. Your hair is African. Your features are African. Your ancestors were African. Your DNA is African. The only thing American about you is your location and your passport. Everything else, everything that actually matters is African. Let me show you why this matters. David Thompson, 38, sent me this. My whole life I've been taught that I'm African American, hyphenated, as if I'm 50% African and 50% American, as if slavery made me something new, something hybrid. Every form I fill out says African American. Every demographic box says African American. Every conversation about identity treats me as if I'm partially Black and partially American. But you looked at me and said, you're African. Full stop. Not African American. Not Black American. Not hyphenated. Not split. African. And hearing an actual African, someone from Africa, leading an African country tell me I'm African with no qualifications, no hyphenation, no compromises, that hit me like lightning, because America has spent 400 years telling me I'm not fully anything. Not African enough for Africa. Not American enough for America. Just caught in the middle. But you looked at me and said, no, you're African. Fully. Completely. No hyphen necessary. And I realized, the only people who ever called me African American were non-Africans. People trying to make me something other than what I am. But actual Africans, they see me as African. Period. This is crucial. This is why it matters that I'm African. American voices, even well-meaning ones, describe you as African American because they see you as partially African, partially American, a blend, a compromise, something new created by slavery. But I see you as African, just African, who happens to live in America, who happens to have American citizenship, but whose essence, whose core, whose identity is African. That's not something an American can ever say to you with the same weight, because Americans, even Black Americans, are shaped by American categories. But Africans aren't. And when an African tells you you're African, it hits different. Because we can see what America trained you not to see, that you never stop being us. Why it hit different. I'm not selling you anything. Here's the fourth reason my words hit differently. Every voice you've heard in America wants something from you. Politicians want your vote. Activists want your support. Corporations want your money. Churches want your attendance. Everyone has an agenda. Even inspirational speakers who tell you you're enough and you're worthy are usually selling you something. A book, a course, a movement, a platform. But I'm the president of Burkina Faso. I don't need your vote. You can't vote in my elections. I don't need your money. I run a country. I don't need your support. I already have power. So when I tell you you're African, you belong, come home. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to use you for anything. I'm just telling you the truth. And that truth lands differently when it comes from someone who has nothing to gain from it. Keisha Rodriguez, 29, explained it like this. Every black American leader who tells me I'm powerful, I'm worthy, I'm enough, they're asking for something. Follow my movement. Buy my book. Support my organization. Vote for my candidate. But you told me I'm African and I belong in Africa. And then you said you don't even have to come. Just know you can. Just know you're welcome. Just know your place is reserved. You're not asking for anything. You're just offering something. And that's why it hit me so hard. Because for the first time, someone with actual power, a president, a leader, someone who controls something real, told me I belong without asking me to prove it, pay for it, or support anything in return. You're not selling me self-esteem. You're offering me citizenship. You're not selling me inspiration. You're offering me land. You're not selling me belonging. You're offering me home. And that's the first time in my life someone in power offered me something without expecting something back. This matters. This is why my words hit different. I'm not an author selling books. I'm not a politician seeking votes. I'm not a corporation seeking profit. I'm not an influencer building a platform. I'm a president of an African country telling African people they can come home. That's it. No catch. No cost beyond the application fee. No agenda beyond reunion. And black Americans can feel the difference between someone selling them something and someone offering them something. That's why it hits different. Why it hit different. I said we, not they. Here's the fifth reason, and this one might be the most important. When black Americans hear about Africa from American sources, even from black American sources, the language is always they and them. They need our help. We should support them. They're struggling. We can assist them. Even in Pan-African movements, even in well-meaning reconnection efforts, there's this subtle distance. You're us and Africa is them. But when I speak to black Americans, I don't say they and them. I say we and us. Because from my perspective, you're not separate from Africa. You're part of Africa that was taken away. You're not African Americans who might help Africa. You're Africans who happen to live in America. We, us, our people, our family. That pronoun shift hits different. Let me show you. Angela Martinez, 41, wrote, every conversation about Africa in America uses them and they, even from black Americans. We should help them. They need us. We can support them. As if Africa is over there and we're over here. As if we're separate. But you don't talk like that. You say our people. You say our family. You say we were separated, but we're still us. And the first time I heard you say our scattered family, I started crying. Because nobody, literally nobody, had ever included me in our when talking about Africa. Black Americans talk about helping Africa. White people talk about saving Africa. But you talked about reuniting our family. Not them. Us. Not Africa and black America. Just Africans who were separated and are reconnecting. That one word, we, hit me harder than any speech about Pan-Africanism, harder than any documentary about roots, harder than any DNA test result. Because you weren't talking about me connecting to Africa. You were talking about our family finding each other again. And that's completely different. See the power of that pronoun shift. They creates distance. We creates unity. Them suggest charity. Us suggest family. African Americans helping Africans creates a hierarchy. Africans reconnecting with Africans creates equality. And I can use we with weight, that American voices can't. Because I'm African. I'm from the place you're connecting to. So when I say we, it's not theoretical, it's literal. We are family. We were separated. We are reconnecting. That hits different coming from an actual African than it does coming from an American, even a black American. Why it hit different? I'm not trying to fix you. Here's the sixth reason my words hit differently. Every voice in America, even well-meaning voices, treats black Americans as people who need fixing. You need healing from trauma. You need education about your history. You need therapy for your pain. You need empowerment for your struggles. Even positive messages have this underlying assumption. Something is wrong with you that needs to be corrected. But I don't see you that way. I don't see broken people who need healing. I see stolen people who need reconnection. I don't see traumatized people who need therapy. I see family members who need welcome. I don't see people lacking something who need empowerment. I see people who have everything they need but have been told they don't. Let me show you why this matters. Michael Foster, 45, explained it this way. Every black empowerment message I've ever heard has this undertone of you're not enough yet but you can be. You're traumatized but you can heal. You're oppressed but you can overcome. You're lacking but you can grow. You're damaged but you can repair. Even the most positive messages reinforce the idea that something's wrong with me that needs fixing. But you didn't tell me I need healing. You told me I need reconnection. You didn't tell me I need therapy. You told me I need family. You didn't tell me I need empowerment. You told me I need options. You didn't treat me like a broken person who needs fixing. You treated me like a displaced person who needs welcoming home. And that's why your words hit different. Because for the first time, someone wasn't trying to fix me. Someone was just trying to reconnect with me. This is profound. American narratives, even supportive ones, are about fixing black Americans, fixing your trauma, fixing your oppression, fixing your inequality. But I'm not trying to fix you, because I don't think you're broken. I think you were stolen. And stolen things don't need fixing. They need returning. That perspective, seeing you as displaced rather than damaged, hits different, because it changes the entire framework of how you see yourself. Why it hit different? I speak from power, not aspiration. Here's the seventh and final reason my words hit differently. When black Americans speak about African reconnection, they're speaking from a position of aspiration. They hope for connection. They wish for unity. They dream of Pan-African solidarity. But I'm not speaking from aspiration. I'm speaking from power. I'm not hoping Africa will welcome you. I control policy in Burkina Faso, and I'm making citizenship available. I'm not wishing for reconnection. I've created a 14-nation framework that makes it legal. I'm not dreaming of Pan-African unity. I'm implementing systems that make it practical. Hope is beautiful. Dreams are inspiring. But power makes things real. And when someone with actual power tells you something is possible, it hits different than when someone without power tells you to hope it happens someday. Let me show you. Sandra Williams, 53, wrote, I've been to Pan-African conferences for 20 years. I've heard speeches about reconnection. I've read books about diaspora unity. I've watched documentaries about returning to roots. And it was all beautiful, inspiring, hopeful, but it was always aspirational. One day we'll reconnect. Someday we'll reunite. Eventually we'll build bridges. Someday. Eventually, one day. But you're not talking about someday. You're saying March 1st. You're not talking about eventually. You're saying 90 days. You're not talking about one day. You're saying apply now. You're not hoping for reconnection. You're implementing citizenship. You're not dreaming of Pan-African unity. You're creating legal frameworks. You're not wishing for diaspora return. You're processing applications. And that's why your words hit different. Because you're not a dreamer talking about possibilities. You're a president making possibilities real. Hope is nice, but power is better. And you have power to actually do what others only talk about. This is crucial. For decades, Pan-Africanism has been a philosophy, an aspiration, a dream. But I'm not a philosopher. I'm a president. And presidents don't just dream. We implement. So when I talk about reconnection, I'm not talking about a concept. I'm talking about citizenship applications. I'm talking about legal status. I'm talking about passport stamps. And that concrete implementation, that power to make dreams real, hits different than philosophical conversations about unity. The pattern in why it hits different. So let me summarize why my words hit black Americans differently. I said stolen, not lost. You're not responsible for finding what was taken. I'm not asking you to fit in. You already belong. You don't need to earn it. I see you as African, period. No hyphen, no split, no compromise. I'm not selling you anything. No book, no vote, no agenda. I said we, not they. You're part of us, not separate from us. I'm not trying to fix you. You're not broken. You're displaced. I speak from power, not hope or dreams, actual implementation. Single one of these reasons comes down to one thing. I'm African, speaking to Africans from a position of power, with no agenda except reconnection. And that combination, African speaker, African audience, real power, genuine invitation, is something black Americans have never experienced before. That's why it hits different, what this means for you. So now I want to ask you something. If my words hit you differently, if you felt something when I said you were stolen, not lost, if you felt recognized when I called you African instead of African American, if you felt welcomed when I said we instead of they, what are you going to do with that feeling? Because feelings are powerful, but feelings without action fade. Thousands of people told me my words hit them differently. But only 14,847 applied for citizenship. That means thousands of people felt something but didn't act on it. Don't let that be you. If my words hit you differently, it's because they're true. And if they're true, they deserve action, not just feelings. The invitation stands. My words hit Black Americans differently because I'm saying something true that American voices can't say with the same weight. You're not African American. You're African. You weren't lost, you were stolen. You don't need to earn belonging. You already belong. You're not them. You're us. You're not broken. You're displaced. And you're not someday going home. You're invited home now. That truth hits different because it comes from someone who has the power to make it real, not just say it's possible. The application is open. The framework is active. The invitation is genuine. The question is, will you let my words hit you differently enough that you actually act differently? To every Black American watching this, if my words hit you differently, it's not because I'm special. It's because I'm African, speaking truth that African voices carry differently than American voices, even Black American voices. You were stolen, not lost. 5 words. But they hit differently because they come from someone who sees you as family that was taken, not strangers who got lost. And family that was taken can come home. The door is open. The invitation is real. The welcome is genuine. The only question is, will you let words that hit different lead to actions that change everything? Your move.